Hello! So today we're going to talk about the second time that I had a serious adverse reaction. I was in the hospital for my second laparoscopic surgery after my hysterectomy. I was still having issues. I still am having issues, but my OBGYN was convinced that it was probably scar tissues causing my pelvic pain. And so he went in and cleaned up some scar tissue, cleaned up some new growth of what we assume is endometriosis, and took my appendix. The appendix was a little bit swollen, fluid filled, and it was attached to my wall with scar tissue. So he went ahead and removed that. And before I had gone to sleep, I was in the room, they're getting ready to start the operation, put me under. The anesthesiologist said, okay, when you come out, I'm gonna give you some Dilaudid and then you'll go into the recovery room and you'll be fine. And I said, no, just give me Toradol because I know that I've had Toradol and I can take Toradol, it's safe for me. I'd rather just use that. And she said, yeah, I'm gonna give you Dilaudid, and put me under before I could argue. So I woke up feeling fine, and then they gave me Dilaudid and wheeled me into the recovery room, and I don't really remember a lot of what happened. I only remember bits and pieces. My husband is the one that has really told me a lot about what happened. But I remember feeling just not okay. I don't know how to explain it. I just knew something was wrong. I felt like this really weird rush in my head, and all of a sudden I remember telling my husband something's not right, and then that's pretty much all I remember. So I guess the same reaction happened as when I had amitriptyline, where I started convulsing and I was awake but not really aware. Sorry about the train in the background. And I was having tachycardia and difficulty breathing. They put oxygen on me. And they gave me a bunch of Benadryl and Ativan because my husband told him, that's what they used last time. And so they went ahead and did that, and it came back down eventually. I don't remember any of that. I just remember waking up again later and still feeling very dizzy and nauseous, and I told my husband that, and my mom was also in the room, and I kept telling them that, like, I don't feel good, I'm so dizzy, I'm so nauseous. And I just remember that I was seeing clouds, like cartoon clouds almost, in like pink and purple, and I remember telling my husband that, and he was like, that's not good. And the nurses came back in and gave me Zofran to help with the nausea. And I proceeded to have an adverse reaction to Zofran. So again, started convulsing and having all these issues with the tachycardia and difficulty breathing. This time I was kind of more there. I remember a lot more of that second time. I remember that there was this male nurse who was ex-military, and the rest of the nurses and doctors were freaking out. I don't really remember what they said they wanted to do, but they were terrified. They'd never seen something like this before. And the male nurse was very calm and told them she's okay, she's alert, and because I could like focus my eyes on him. And even though I couldn't speak, because when that happens to me, I like lose control of my body. I can't really like lift my arms or lift my legs or use my mouth. It's really scary, but what I was able to do was control my fingers, which is very strange, but I could control a little bit of strength in my right hand fingers, and he figured that out and was like, squeeze me if the answer is yes. And so he started asking me questions, and I would squeeze if the answer is yes, and they were able to help me because of that. And again, they just gave me a bunch of Benadryl and Ativan. The problem was with the second time that I had the reaction was the first time they had given me so much Benadryl and Ativan that they weren't able to give me as much the second time. And so I actually had to ride that one out. So after they gave me what they could of the Benadryl and Ativan, I had to just deal with the symptoms. So I was convulsing and having difficulty and still very dizzy and nauseous and in pain for quite a while. I guess they had moved me at some point to the ICU because of my reactions. So I woke up in a different room in a lot of pain in my stomach, and I thought there was just so much pressure. I thought that I needed to maybe have a bowel movement. So I actually got out of the hospital bed and went into the bathroom, and my mom was like, what is going on? Like, she shouldn't even be able to get up right now. And so she called the nurse to come and help me, and I came out of the bathroom and laid back into bed, and I told them I'm having so much pain. And they were like, well, we can't give you anything right now. When's my dog? And so I just remember complaining a lot and experiencing a lot of pain, and then I passed out. And they thought that I was having another reaction, but I wasn't. I didn't have the convulsing or the other issues. I was just out. I passed out, I guess, due to the pain or shock from my body going through all of this stuff. So I passed out. They came back in. That was the third time that I got a code called on me when I was in recovery from my laparoscopic surgery. So they came in, they figured out that I basically had passed out and that was okay. And they sent in a neurologist who did an EEG. And I really don't remember a lot, but I do remember a little bit of the EEG. I remember joking with the nurse who was putting the electrodes on my head. I don't remember what I said to her, but I remember I was joking with her. The nurse said, I can't believe she's that good of a mood after everything that has happened to her. And my husband said, that's just who she is. And I think you can tell a lot about a person when they are in that sort of state, because it's 100% authentic. Everything that comes out is really you. And here I was, basically dying and joking with the nurse. And so I remember just being so tired and weak, and the neurologist, I remember, had Parkinson's, and I thought that was really cool that he was a neurologist with Parkinson's disease. And I think I said something to that effect to him, and then he kind of explained the test, and I only remember bits and pieces. And then he did a strobe light with a lot of like clapping kind of sound to see how I would react and how my brain would react. And I did have convulsions, but my brain activity was okay, apparently. So they decided that it wasn't seizures, it was non-epileptic seizures. They still don't know why I have those convulsions or why certain medications cause these reactions in my body. But they are still investigating. I haven't had another adverse reaction since that incident, so we haven't been able to do a whole lot of testing. I do have a lab sheet for when or if that happens again. The nurses are to take my blood and test for certain things, which will go back to my allergist so he can look at it and figure out what exactly is happening. They didn't suggest that I follow up with anybody, and I haven't had any more reactions to drugs since then. But I also, well, I shouldn't say that. I've had reactions, but not like that, not adverse reactions to that extent. And so now when I get new medications, I start very, very low dosage, and I'll usually start with a quarter or a half of a pill, and over the course of a week or so, work up to taking a whole pill, just to make sure that I'm not gonna be allergic to it or have any issues with it. I do that with anything actually now, not just medications, but new foods. I've been really getting into wild plants. So for example, I tried dandelion tea, and I took very small sips to start off and eventually worked my way up. And so anything new that I introduce to my body, I start very slow. I'm just very cautious, and I always have Benadryl on hand, just in case. And I take lots of water with it, because another thing that usually happens when I have these adverse reactions is that I get very dehydrated and my potassium usually goes up, which is strange. So I drink lots of water every time that I try something new, and I take baby doses and just be cautious. I always take it when we don't have any plans, when my husband is not working, when somebody is around, in case something does happen, they can get me to a hospital relatively quickly. I live really close to a number of hospitals, so if something did happen, we could get to a hospital fast, and they could counter it quickly and save me. The reason why the nurses and doctors were so scared of this was because they didn't understand it. They didn't have a reason for really what was happening. They knew it was the medications, but they didn't know why it was causing these reactions of the convulsing, the tachycardia, the lack of oxygen, things like that. And they can see that things are happening to my body, but they don't understand why. And that scares people. It scares me. It terrifies me. But especially medical professionals, because when they don't have an answer, that's not good. So we're still looking into it, and if I ever find out, I will definitely update you guys. But let me know in the comments if any of you have ever had these sort of reactions to medications, and what you found it was. I'd be very interested to know. So yeah, drop a like, drop a comment, and stay tuned for the next video.